Hello and welcome. In terms of impact, Narendra Modi's speech at the United Nations General Assembly is perhaps going to have the most importance. In terms of profile, the meetings that he's going to have in Washington and the bilateral he's going to have with Mr. Obama will be most watched and followed. But in terms of sheer spectacular value, without a doubt, his huge gig at the Madison Square Gardens, where he's going to be talking to over 20,000 Indian Americans, is what people are going to follow and talk about for a long time from now. And as you're watching this coverage, this is all part of our run-up to our live coverage from Madison Square Gardens, where our whole crew will be there, bringing you that spectacular event, which might be transformative for the Indian community in a way in America. Talk about the Madison Square event, to talk about Mr. Modi and what his maiden visit has done for the Indian community in New York and in America. I have a fantastic panel of Indian Americans here and Indians with me here in the studios. To my right, and first of all, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
And it's been fantastic so far. When I came to America a couple of days back, never imagined that Mr. Narendra Modi could be such a crowd puller and such a conversation point. It's been quite a discovery for me as well. I'd like to quickly welcome and introduce our eminent panel. And to my right is Vibhuti Jha. Vibhuti Jha is President of the Human Potential Project and Executive Director of Nalanda International. Vibhuti, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you here today. Good to see you here today. To Vibhuti's right, we have Dr. Vishakha Desai. She's a Special Advisor for Global Affairs to the President of Columbia University. Thank you very much, Dr. Vishakha. And to Dr. Vishakha's right is Jagdish Sewani. He's the President of the America-India Public Affairs Committee. And Dr. Jagdish Desai, sorry, I added the epithet.
Thank you for calling me doctor.
He is one of the key organizers of the Madison Square Garden event. He can tell us about that and also how this whole event has come to be. Look forward to talking to you about that. Dr. Rajesh Shukla is a founding member of the BJP USA. He's part of the Overseas Friends of the BJP.
Yes.
And thank you very much, Dr. Shukla.
Thank you.
You can tell us more about the Overseas Friend of BJP involvement in Madison Square, perhaps. And finally, Sanjay Puri, of course, is Chairman of the US-India Political Action Committee and the Alliance for India, US-India Business. And Sanjay, I guess you're going to be looking at how this whole event has some kind of a positive impact on India-US business relations. A lot to talk about today. Fantastic. So let me start with you, Jagdish, and let's keep it free-flowing.
Absolutely.
This is not one of my political debates,
Yes.
so you can just go easy. Go easy on me and I'll go easy on you.
I will try. At least you go easy.
So Jagdish, tell me, what is this whole Madison Square event? I mean, the Madison Square Gardens is a place where Elvis Presley, or maybe, the big boxing gigs used to happen. Who thought about it?
I'll tell you how it happened, Anuji. When I was in India and I campaigned for about 4 months for the election for Narendra Bhai. And we discussed about this program after the results, and we said we should have a giant stadium which can hold about 50,000 people. So when we came here and inquired, that was not available because there is a game on that tomorrow. So they cannot give it to us. We wanted 50,000 people, So the next
you think 50,000 would have come?
50,000 could have easily come. The way we are thinking, we have a wait list of 10,000 people already here.
Amazing.
So that this was the next best possible available.
But why do it? Tell me, Dr. Shukla, what is the idea behind it?
See, the Prime Minister are coming every year for UNGA. And every year there is a public reception. It is happening since so many years. When our government was in power, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was Prime Minister, we used to do every year. So this happens every year. On this scale, this is the first time it is happening. The biggest program which we did for Mr. Vajpayee, it was in Staten Island, around 5,000 people were there. But this is the biggest...
He spoke?
He
was a key speaker at that event?
Yeah. He was Prime Minister at that time.
Yes.
So we used to do every year, even when he was coming. But his biggest program, I think we did in 2003 in Staten Island.
But is this about political mobilization, or is this about, because I spoke to a few people and I said, for you, what is this event all about? And they described it in many different ways.
I'll tell you, Arnavji, this is not about political. If you ask anybody here, about 4 million Indians are here. most of them are nationalists, and 90% plus they are pro-BJP. 90%, we have done the survey. And they care about the country, and they see Narendra Modi, they have only ray of hope they see is, oh, finally India has a person who really cares for Bharat, and he'll do something.
See, I don't know, there is no political mobilization, only because the community here, Indian community here, they want to listen to their Prime Minister, whosoever it may be. Yeah. Because Narendra Modi has created some sort of euphoria, because people think they were very pessimistic in last 10 years, so many scams, so many scandals. And as Jagdish has said, that we are all patriotic, nationalistic. We want some government should be there, that government should function, and they should deliver. Now they think that he is there, he is the person. They may not be typical BJP supporter as such, but they think in Narendra Modi as a leader who can deliver.
How much of this has got to do with giving a voice to the Indian community, Vibhuti? Because, you know, the Indian community is very wealthy compared to the median average income. I'm told that the average Indian in America has twice the average income of an average American. So it's a very influential and wealthy community.
Well,
it's not a small community anymore. I'm told there are about 3 million. 3.54 million Indians with a
1% of the population, sir.
It's 1% of the population, but the 1% would earn what 2% of the average Americans.
Maybe more, yes,
it is. So I got a sense when I was speaking to here. It's also it's about self-assertion also.
It is. I came to this country way back in 1991, and one of my jobs was to promote and market India in this part of the world to drive investments over there, so to India. So I have spoken to many corporates, and when I met with the Indian community here, what I realized, the first generation Indian community came here with $6 or $8 in their pocket, and they did well.
That's one of me. 1967.
And they did so well here. Now, here is the critical element. Every single Indian who has done whatever level of his achievement is without any grant from the government, very the largest from the government. People worked hard. They got an opportunity to work hard and be themselves. Now that, and the second part is that there is tremendous amount of respect for labor. The dignity of labor is very high in the US.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you do, so long as you are doing something towards the contribution to the society. And as a congressman told me once, that we love you Indians as an immigrant community. You have family values, you work hard, you are educated, you contribute to the society, and you ask for nothing.
Are Indians a voting bloc?
They are not a voting bloc on the national level, but Indians are a very prominent voting bloc in local elections. So in the county elections, there the votes matter.
That's an interesting perspective I always find. I mean, because you know, Dr. Vishakha, I was speaking to someone who said that this reception is also Narendra Modi's message to the United States that he cannot be taken lightly. You know, that given all his supporters, they say this, that given a choice, all his supporters here would rather vote for him than either Republican or Democrat. You know, and you know, there's been a bit of a frosty relationship with the US over the visa issue.
I think what's very important to recognize is that, first of all, and I've been here, first I came in 1967 as a high school student, and then I came back again in 1970, have been here ever since. And I've seen the changes in the relationship. So the reality is that the relationship between the United States and India is still a relatively young one. I mean, if you recognize, most of the time until 1991, in fact, our relationship was quite frosty because of the Cold War and where India was and where the US was. And I think that given that, actually things have happened very fast. But then, after the civil nuclear energy deal, you recognize that, in fact, in the last 5 years, it feels like things have kind of not moved as much as we would want.
How would it help you if it were to move? How would it help you, as in, how would it help the Indian community in America had the relationship moved differently?
Well, I think one of the things is that we should recognize, as a number of my colleagues have said, that Indian Americans in this country also remain very passionately committed to India. And therefore, most of us have been very frustrated when the relationships have kind of been not going anywhere. And so we put lots of energy into strengthening this relationship because we belong to both places. We're not just about America, and we're not just about India. So as a result, we want this relationship to grow. I mean, it's not just the old adage that, the oldest democracy and the biggest democracy. I mean, all of that is fine. But the reality is there is something about these two cultures. And in fact, Mr. Modi, when he was on another interview, as you know, has talked about the fact that these are two democracies that also have a culture of kind of diversity and acceptance of that, where anybody can go anywhere. In this country, much more so than there.
Yeah, just to add to that, is that most of everybody here gets affected by everything that is happening in India, and vice versa. So families are there, issues are there, and we are the unofficial ambassador of the country.
So may I ask you, Sanjay, what has Modi done so far during his tenure that has caught the Indian American community's eye? And I'm not just talking about perception point of view. I'm talking more from the business point of view. He's made a strong pitch. He talks about FDI in his column at the Wall Street Journal. You may have seen that. What kind of an image is he sending out? And are people in America, the business community, buying into that reformist image?
I think, Arnav, you kind of have to step back a little bit as to why we are here. I mean, if you look back, past 3-4 years, people, when they look at me, they see an Indian. When they look at Vishakha, I'm sure they see an Indian. So generally we get asked what's happening with those rapes in India. Generally we get asked what's happening with the scams in India, because generally the bad news generally is the first thing that comes about. And then when you look at Capitol Hill, what has happened with Mr. Modi, there have been continuous resolutions that have been put out by people who are anti-Modi that we've been working hard to kind of beat off on. There have been resolutions that he should not be allowed, even right during the election time. There was a House vote that came in for Section 417. So I think it has made him also like the underdog. So there is that feeling that he's coming in, and then he also has great oratorial skills. It's the strong leadership. Now you look at Mr. Manmohan Singh, and then you look at, this is not about political, this is not Congress or BJP. It's people get drawn to strong leaders, whether it's a Ronald Reagan, it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, whether it's a Bill Clinton.
But Sanjay, tell me one thing, this baggage of the visa issue, is it over? Let me just toss that to Jagdish. I'm going to come back, because I think you've touched on a very interesting point, because this whole talk, what had happened, the denial of a visa over the 2002 riots that did not go down well. And I'm told many members of the Indian American community also, it did not go down well. Do you believe now that, as you're looking to the Washington, do you think Modi and the Obama government will get over the baggage of that? And will this sort of Madison Square event, the UNGA speech, help towards it? Or do you think that some of that baggage will remain? Jagdish, what do you think?
I think that issue is already dead.
You think so?
Yes.
Why? Because the Americans are pragmatic people?
Absolutely. And what happened? See, after the election were over, the results came. The first thing Obama did is to congratulate him. And I'll go a little further before that even, when Modi was denied visa. I mean, I know Narendra Bhai for so many years. So we were talking about, he said, Jagdish Bhai, don't discuss about my visa with these people. They will give me visa on their own, and this is what, now they have a red carpet is waiting for him. And now he's the Prime Minister of India. And look what happened. The day he was elected, what he did, he invited SAARC leadership. So there's a message to the world that India has arrived on world arena. I will go a little further now. Now the United Nations, which was formed in 1945 by these 5 people who were the victors of the world, and they decided the agenda, they kept themselves as the permanent members and the veto power. It is about time, Arnav, that the reform should be there at the United Nations Security Council. And India should be member as a permanent member of the Security Council.
I think you make a very, very important point. I'm going to go into a break here. That's the point. What is India's stake in the world? But I think when I come back on the other side of the break, I think what I'd like to talk to you about and learn more from you about is what kind of political clout do you as a community have in the United States of America, and whether this Modi visit will play a role in that. How much political clout does a economically influential and from what I'm seeing, a fairly well-organized community like the Indian American community, how much clout does it carry? We'll talk about that when we come back. Just a very short break. welcome back. I'm here in Times Square at our studios here having an interesting conversation with very respected members of the Indian American community. And of course, before we carry on, I want you to tell us, because this is all a build up to the Madison Square event, Jagdish. Yes. Tell us the flow of this Madison Square event. How is it? I mean, there'll be politicians there. There's a cultural event. Is Modi the only speaker? Because it would be terrible. I think there'd be two bad jobs there tomorrow. Okay. One, the person introducing Modi.
Right.
Because people would want him to speak for a very short time. But if there's anyone speaking after Modi...
Nobody is speaking after Modi.
Okay. That's a smart move. You wouldn't want to be the guy who speaks after Modi, right?
And I will keep the introduction part. Let it be secret so that, there is some fun left there.
Okay.
And as far as the flow and the power of Indian you see, tomorrow you will see number of congressmen and senators and governor to come and receive him.
Okay.
So I'm sure Times Now will be there, and they'll be interviewing most of these congressmen and senators.
I look forward to that, Jagdish.
And they have shown the interest to meet you.
Well, really?
And to meet Narendra Bhai. So we are hosting a lunch brunch for them, the congressmen, around 11:30 for them. And Narendra Bhai is going to meet them before that, our Prime Minister.
Yes, that's going to be fantastic, Jagdish. So you are going to have a lot of leading American politicians who are there at that event.
Yes, who's who of them will be there. Well, this being the election year, maybe a lot of people will not come from other states, but you will see a lot of congressmen and senators and governors.
Yeah, so now I'm coming back to the other point, and let's go back to you, Vibhuti, on that. What about your political clout? What political clout does the Indian American community carry? Give me a candid American type answer.
It's very simple. It's very simple. Numbers matter, money matters. So in terms of numbers, we don't have that kind of a big voting block of millions of people.
You wish you did?
Sorry?
You wish you did?
I wish we did.
So why is that?
The reason is we are only 3 million people in this country.
A small number?
It is a small number. So at the presidential election level, it doesn't matter, but the money matters there because the money is required for fighting the big election. Where the Indian community can make a difference is by participating in local level of elections in a Nassau County where I live, or a Suffolk County, or Bergen County in New Jersey. If we begin to step in over there, then you are seeing a grassroots recognition of what we Indians can make a difference. But those votes are decided by 1,000 numbers here and there. So that's one thing which is very important for Indians to realize, in my opinion. Most of us get enamored by the fact that we are giving millions of dollars in presidential campaign. I think it doesn't matter so much as it creates a goodwill.
Well, I actually think slightly differently, which is that, first of all, I think we must recognize that for the size of the community, we actually have a fair amount of clout. Because if you look at senior staffers where Indian Americans are in the government, much larger numbers than any other Asian Americans. So number one. Number two, I think that there is in fact more and more Indian Americans who are coming into the political arena because of partnerships. So it's not just that they're going after other Indians. And I think that it's very important to recognize that it's about creating partnerships with other communities. Because in this country, if you just go after your own, it's never going to work.
That's exactly the point which I was referring to.
It's a solid point.
And Indians are very good at doing that. Number three, we're a young community. I mean, after all, yes, the Sikhs came very early, but by and large, the community really started in large numbers after the 65 immigration reform. So we're very young. And I think that within the next 10 years, you'll see a huge change.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. There is one another dimension.
Because the more political clout that you have, the more that you can lobby. And then these controversial sort of immigration reform bills which are being talked about. And I had Senator Robert Menendez in this panel I was talking to. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah,
and I asked Senator Robert Menendez, I said, Senator, are you willing to discuss this controversial bill all over again? Because there are a few provisions which don't go down very well for Indians, especially on the H-1 visa issue. And you know what he said, Sanjay? He said, yes, it's up on the table for discussions. I thought that was a very flexible kind of approach. I don't know whether he was telling me because I'm from an Indian channel or whether he meant it.
Well, because he is himself a big proponent of immigration. Remember, he's a Cuban American. So he has a big stake in there. But coming to Vishakha's point, We talk about we don't have political clout. There are 2 governors of Indian American origin. We have a member of Congress. We have so many state legislators. We've got state staffers. And go down to Congress and you'll see so many key influential staffers. Look at the USAID head. Look at the CIO, the CTOs of Indian American origin. First generation, as she said, they had $6. They were building their home. Now the second generation is coming in, and you just watch, because we continually support financially these young people who need their support. But as far as lobbying is concerned, how do you think the US-India nuclear deal happened?
Right.
The Indian American community really galvanized and pushed, not because they had an interest.
Are you disappointed of where it went?
Yes, we are disappointed because we didn't know thorium, uranium. We were told this was a good thing for US-India relations. Now, obviously, we didn't realize...
You're not nuclear physicists.
We are not nuclear physicists. We are just passionate about US-India relations.
You know, I am a bit of a cynic sometimes. Mm-hmm. And don't take this as a cynical question, but, you know, I was reading the Wall Street Journal editorial that day. And I went across to the Wall Street Journal and I spoke to one of their senior editorial columnists. And I asked him, what did you think about it? And he said, well, we welcome it. I think it's great. But he also made a point that the warm-up has been so good. The expectations are so high. The honeymoon is so terrific that there is always a fear that expectations from Mr. Modi, and I'm talking from the more business point of view right now, the expectations can be risen so high that there is a risk of, things backfiring. Does that worry you? You're a BJP member, and I'd like to ask both of you. Do you worry about it?
No, so Arnab, first I want to just add up what the gentleman has said. Beside political clout, there is another dimension. Just like if you go to any corporate here, all the higher ups now are Indians, most of them. You go to any big universities. Now it is the reverse. I will not say discrimination, because if they don't do that, then all the people in Harvard and all, I believe, will be Indians.
Yeah.
So that also generate a cloud.
Yeah.
Because when they go and they work in a corporation, that create a pressure for the lawmaking people to hear their voice.
Yeah.
So that is also one dimension of the political.
No, I accept your point.
I'll tell you.
Now come to my question.
We are not worried about it at all. If we have enough, the target is higher. वो बोलते हैं सूरज तक अपना निशाना रखो. अगर सूरज तक नहीं चांद तक तो पहुंचेगा.
No, but let me push you on that. You had an economist,
right?
You had an economist who kickstarted India's economic reforms.
Right.
Seen to be personally honest, right? He had the best minds were doing the key portfolios, and yet in terms of delivery and performance, there was a feeling, and you yourself spoke about it, that India slowed down and was held back by forces within. That's why I'm asking you, is there a fear of expectations going too high?
Manmohan Singh was a good economist, but he is not a good leader. We have to accept it. And
how do you know that Modi is a good politician, a good leader who will be a good economist?
I have watched him for last 22 years when he was not even a chief minister of Gujarat. And what he has done in Gujarat in last 11, 12 years, results are there to be seen.
What if I say, are you enchanted by Mr. Modi? Are you too taken away?
Come on,
Jagdish.
You can say
Come on, Jagdish.
You can say that, but I'm a realistic also. I have seen him. He really cares for India. He is a dynamic leader. He's a visionary. He knows where to take India 10 years from now. And I'm sure he will take it there.
Okay, Sanjay.
Arnab, let's talk, having discussions with CEOs of companies. One thing I can tell you is always set expectations lower and try to exceed them. What they say right now is, we've seen this movie before, and they follow a Reagan outage. Basically, trust but verify. So that's what they're trying to tell you is, let us see real action, because the two things they want, transparent policies and consistent policies.
The important part.
I understand why they're saying that, because they saw the highs of 2008.
Yes.
They saw the Indo-US nuclear deal. Then they saw what happened. So the relationship plateaued. They saw Vodafone. They're not seeing the effective tax reform. So I think if I can understand how American businessmen do business, they will talk Turkey. And when that meeting happens with Mr. Modi, it'll be a business-like conversation. And perhaps he'll have to get the specifics of that conversation.
One of the industrialists had mentioned that FDI entering in India is like entering in the Battle of Chakravyuh. You know how to enter, but you don't know how to get out. So money has to be welcomed, And Mr. Modi will have the biggest task that he elaborated in Japan, that we will welcome you with red carpet. Now, the question is whether the industry, the investors will have the opportunity to exit also at the same time, or are we going to have policies that will affect exit of the industry?
Vibhuti.
So this is very important.
When he was speaking at the UNGA, we had all the strategic experts around the table, and you know what they said? They said that what Modi's done right is that he's kept the message very simple. When you keep the message simple, your delivery is simple. Now, he does that in terms of diplomacy. Can he do that in terms of economy? Can he keep it simple?
He could keep it simple. And I believe in Einstein's famous statement, any intelligent fool, he said, any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes a courageous one to move in the other direction. I notice in Mr. Modi's pronouncements that he's taking those small steps. That is important, and those are path-breaking announcements.
Right.
So when he said, I'm going to clean Varanasi, it is a very deep message. And for me, the message is that Goddess of Lakshmi comes in a clean environment. Our pundits and priests, everybody knows. How can we keep our homes clean and streets dirty? So the question is that it leads to cleanliness of environment.
No, I think it
is cleanliness of mind, and that is the kind of thing which he's talking about.
Vibhuti, I think he's connecting with a lot of people. So tell me, Dr. Vishakha, what do you think he's going to say? What is that speech going to be about?
First of all, let me just
What is that speech going to be? I'll give you the most difficult job of this conversation.
There you go.
The most difficult job of the conversation is to do what no journalist can do in India, is read Mr. Modi's mind.
There you go. And you were asking me, right? But before
so we'll give her the time.
No, but he knows him too well. So those of us who don't know him that well, although I do actually, I have met him. But I think that first of all, let us be very clear that when we talk about honeymoon, American business is not talking about honeymoon. They're saying, we're going to talk Turkey, let's wait and see. The money is not just immediately flooding in because they're going to see what happens. So I think we have to remember that when we're talking about a honeymoon phase, who are we talking about? It is which direction. Now, speaking about what he's going to say tomorrow, my own sense is that I think he's created a sense of pride in wanting to be what it feels like to be an Indian. I think that pride comes from also his referencing back into our own traditions. And I think that pride is something we felt like we didn't have sitting here for the last so many years.
That's why I said, as somebody told me, and I've been repeating this since, he said it's now cool to be Indian.
Yes,
that is very good statement.
It's
right.
now.
You said it right.
I said, what is Madison Square all about? And they said, my friend Nikhil, he works at Time Magazine. He said, I think it's cool to be Indian. I said, Nikhil, I think
I'll give a simple example. My daughter is a student in NYU. She is never connected with Indian politics at all. Suddenly, she tells me last week, Dad, I want to volunteer for Madison Square Garden event. Wow. I was like, what's happening? He said, everybody in NYU is talking about Modi, 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 and you know him so well. I would like to meet him.
Wow.
And I would like to volunteer. And all those kids who are working behind the scene, they are all young kids.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's a very interesting event we are looking forward to. I thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
If I may add one thing, at your expense of your time, is that you asked a difficult question of Vishakha about
she didn't bite the bait. You want to bite the bait?
I do. I will, because I wrote an article.
We should get the prize. We should make him put on a bet of what happens if he gets it wrong.
I have written a speech actually in imagining and imaging what Mr. Modi ought to say. Because remembering in school days and college days, we used to be asked to write a essay on what would you do if you were the Prime Minister. I wrote a speech.
I want to say,
and in that speech, I got feedback. One of them says, "Are you the official speech writer for the Prime Minister?"
Difficult job.
I want to add one thing. There is a difference between Mr. Modi and the previous Prime Minister. Here, there is a leader who is the head of the government as well as the head of the party.
That's right.
So he can decide.
Yeah.
Earlier, you know those stories.
No, I think he does come with a certain amount of authority, and I find it very interesting the way his visit here seems to have rejuvenated the Indian American community. Sanjay will look at what impact that has on business, but simply as a sociological phenomenon, I think Madison Square Garden event is going to be
rocking.
Yeah, rocking.
It was Enrique Iglesias last night. It'll be Namo. tomorrow.
After Julio Iglesias, it's Namo.
Rockstar Namo.
When the Madison Square Garden was taken, even I was skeptical whether we can get 20,000
Right.
people. But there were 40,000 people.
Right.
So the response was overwhelming.
Right.
Means earlier even none of us had expected this kind of response.
Well, you know, I've really enjoyed this chat, and I look forward to being with all of you at the Madison Square Gardens and to bringing you the live coverage. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, Sunday evening, your date is with Times Now, where we will be bringing the live event of Madison Square Gardens to you. Till then, goodbye.